Many thanks for making a date on the marketplace. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi Riafi. Now, we've done the required work to help us secure a favorable interest rate for our Eurobond sale. That's a firm assurance coming from the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as the Eurobond roadshow closes in London today. We have more on this investor engagement for the bonds in the following report.
The Eurobond roadshow took the team to New York, boasting in the US, and is in London today. The engagement offers the team an opportunity to answer all the burning questions on the economy from investors all over the world who are interested in buying the country's Eurobond. It offered the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta an opportunity to find out the level of interest in the Eurobond by investors and how the Eurobond should be priced. The interest governments will pay on the bond is often closely monitored because of its impact on the total debt stock, but Mr. Ofori-Atta says they are hopeful of securing a good price, looking at the kind of work they have done over the past week.
The Eurobond roadshow is going well. We'll be in London for the final meetings on Monday, and we expect to have a very successful flotation of 3 billion. So I think, with that and the fundamentals being as good as they are, we expect a reversal and stability. I think maybe the confluence of things in the first quarter, i.e., the first quarter is usually where the pressures are for dividend and coupon externalization, trade flows, etc., compounded by strengthening of the dollar, and I think for us specifically is the issue of concluding of the IMF program maybe has led to some uncertainties by the investor community.
Securing all the funds and even at a favorable interest rate will be good for the country because of the immediate impact on the Ghana Cedi and total debt stock. This is because these funds will go a long way to increase Bank of Ghana's reserves, giving some firm assurance to investors about the country's strong reserve position.
But I think what we are doing now will reverse it. But more significantly for us as Ghanaians is to realize that exchange rate is a price, which means just demand and supply. And really we should look at the structure of our current account so that we are not an import-dependent country. Because once we eliminate that, the yo-yoing of the Cedi will be eliminated.
Well, so the Eurobond team is led by the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and one of the governors of the central bank, while the Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan are set to be leading government to raise the funds. Morgan Stanley, Standard Chartered Bank and Standard Chartered Bank PLC are also supporting the move. Meanwhile, Fidelity Bank, IC Securities and Data Bank Group are acting as local arrangers. Let's move on now. And the Ghana Cedi continues to record some appreciation against the dollar on the market. The local currency on Thursday and Friday held its own against the US dollar. George Riafi assesses the sustainability of this trend in the following report.
This morning, $1 is likely to be sold to you by some of the major banks at around 5 Ghana Cedis, 55 pesos. This is coming after last Wednesday when it was trading at around 5 Ghana Cedis, 90 pesos. For instance, last Thursday, the Cedi appreciated by some 5% against the dollar. It gained marginally on Friday too, from 5 Ghana Cedis, 65 pesos to 5 Ghana Cedis, 55 pesos. Now, based on information that we are picking up from the Bank of Ghana, it shows that they will be heavy on the market in terms of dollar supply. Then maybe the supply problem, which fueled the depreciation, could be ending soon. Again, the expected inflows from the Eurobond sale of about $2.2 billion. The Stanbic Bank and Standard Chartered Bank PLC's $750 million bridge loan financing and some COCOBOD loans coming in, which is separate from the syndicated facility, as well as some IMF funds. All these could increase Bank of Ghana's dollar reserves and again deal with investors and traders who were betting on the Bank of Ghana's reserves, which also contributed to this sharp depreciation we experienced over the past weeks. All these could indeed result in the Cedi stabilizing strongly against the dollar in the coming weeks. But the warning here is that the structural issues still persist, which expose the Cedi so that perennial depreciation is yet to be addressed. So even though these immediate actions will stabilize the cedi, that is in the short term.
And that report was by George Riafi. Now the British pound is going for 7 Ghana cedis, 61 pesos. The euro, on the other hand, is selling at 6 cedis, 50 pesos. Now time to take a look at the stock market for some updates on the stock market, of course. And we're joining a research analyst from Data Bank, Edem Boku, with more. Edem, good afternoon. Welcome to the market, please. Hello, Edem. All right, so we're trying to link up with a research analyst from Data Bank, Edem Boku, who will give us some updates on the stock market, how the market fared last week, and of course, to give us an outlook for the week. All right, let's move on until we get through to Edem. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, has admitted higher charges on imports are due to impact of the depreciating cedi. Small-scale importers in Kumasi held a press conference last week to complain about alleged increase in duties and harassment by security personnel. They also raised issues with a drop in the value of the cedi against the foreign currencies at the risk of the sustenance of their businesses. The Customs Division, however, explains charges are pegged against the dollar and other foreign currencies in conformity with global standards. Officer in charge of State Warehouse, Edward Agrifin, says duties have not been reviewed.
Exchange rate, that pushes because our values are in foreign currency. So when the exchange rate goes up, it also causes the values to increase. So the values increase because of the exchange rate. That is what causes, but in real terms, we do not increase the values. And also the rates of taxes, they are fixed also according to the international convention. For instance, we belong to ECOWAS. So ECOWAS, the common external tariffs, there are tariff rates that are agreed upon. Some of them are actually tailored to make sure that we also beat off foreign competition for the goods that we produce in the country. So if you notice, for instance, the canned tomatoes, we take 35% of import duty on it because we are encouraging people to produce them within the nation. So if you want to import, then you have to pay higher for it.
Now, Mr. Agrifin also dismisses allegations of harassment of importers by customs and other security personnel.
Of late, what we are doing is that the paperless, for instance, is reducing human intervention in all this. And now you see that the rate of fiscal examination has reduced drastically. We are also complementing with scanning. With the scanning process, you look at the image. If there's any discrepancy, then you have to dig deeper to find out. But if it is normal, it means that you are compliant. We, just do a cursory inspection and we allow you to clear. So along the route, we also have a task force. The task force is to make sure that such issues do not crop up. So if anybody is caught in trying to stop people on the way to extort money from them, it should be reported to the nearest customs station, and then action will be taken to make sure that people trade freely in this nation.
So live on the marketplace, let's now go back to our research analyst from Data Bank, who is going to tell us or give us an update of the stock markets. And Edem Boku is joining us via Skype now. Edem, if you can hear me, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so how did it go last week?
Well, it's been a week, it's a long week on the Ghana exchange last week. We've seen market activity slowing down with total turnover for the week slowing down about 70% week on week, whereas Petroleum traded also slowed down 55% week on week. We've seen 9 price changes on the best, made up of 5 winners and 4 laggards. Okay. The Ghana Stock Exchange increased its year-to-date loss by 0.9% week on week, and now it's at negative 4.58%. The Data Bank Stock Index 20, which measures the top 20 stocks on the Ghana Stock Exchange, has also been down 0.76% to negative 5.6% year to date.
All right, so quickly, let's look at how the Ghana cedi fared against the other major trading currencies last week.
Right. On the interbank market, where banks trade amongst themselves, the US dollar gained 2 pesos against the Ghana Cedi to 5 cedis, 24 pesos. The Ghana Cedi lost 14 pesos against the pound to 6 cedis, 96 pesos. Whereas the Ghana Cedi also lost 8 pesos against the euro to 5 cedis, 94 pesos.
All right, it looks like it's picking up. The Ghana Cedi is picking up against the dollar gradually. What do we expect this week?
Well, we don't expect the depreciation to.
We sincerely apologize for that loss. It was due to a technical hitch. We have to move on to other stories now. Ghana and Ivory Coast are likely to start a joint announcement of prices for cocoa beans produced in their respective countries at the same time this year. Chief Executive of Cocoa Board Joseph Boahene Edu disclosed this to Joy Business at the sidelines of a ceremony in Ivory Coast, where Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire committed to adhering to regional standards for their exports. George Rafi has the details in the following report.
Ghana and Ivory Coast currently have 2 different periods that their regulators announce the price a ton of cocoa produced by farmers should be sold. It is believed that if Ghana's price is higher than that of Ivory Coast, it results in some kind of smuggling. But speaking to Joy Business in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, Chief Executive of Cocoa Board Joseph Boahene Edu says they've come very far in putting in place the right structures to aid this move, possibly from the last quarter of this year.
It prevents speculators, from doing speculative buying of cocoa and then hoarding, with the intent of smuggling. Prevents that. And then again, also, it sort of affects the smuggling gap. But once the gap is, narrowed, it makes it, a disincentive for smugglers to try and smuggle cocoa across the border. So the announcement of the price at the same time works in favor of both countries. It has some mutual benefit for the 2 countries. Apart from that, we've also tried to harmonize our system of trading. Cote d'Ivoire used to go to the market every day. Every working day, they go to the market twice. But Ghana was not. So whether prices were good or not, Cote d'Ivoire was going to the market to trade cocoa. And with that, speculators, and other buyers in the hedges and so on and so forth in the cocoa, market could anticipate what Cote d'Ivoire was coming to do.
The move is part of a broader strategy of harmonizing cocoa trading systems of the 2 countries. This was after they all agreed yesterday to have a common sub-regional standard for marketing cocoa from Ghana and Ivory Coast. All these will ensure that farmers in Ghana and Ivory Coast get better price and value for their produce, looking at the kind of work that goes into producing cocoa beans. All these will ensure that farmers in the country and Ivory Coast get better price and value for their produce, looking at the kind of work that goes into producing the bean.
Still stay on the commodities, but now let's move on to oil and gas. And Energy Minister John Peter Amewu has revealed that the Western region will soon become the nation's petroleum hub. This, he said, follows Cabinet's approval for the establishment of the much-awaited hub in the region. The petroleum hub will accommodate all infrastructure installations in the petroleum industry. These include a refinery to process crude oil into various petroleum products and manufacturing plants for the processing of fertilizer from byproducts of crude oil.
Yeah, Cabinet has given approval for a petroleum hub, establishment of petroleum hub in the Western region. So this is a good news to my good people and friends from the Western region. And this is what this government is doing. We're thinking about development across every part of this country. So there's going to be a petroleum hub, in the Western region. Cabinet has given that approval.
How is it going to contribute to the growth of the region?
Well, employment, in terms of employment generation, injections of DFI, it's going to drive, what development project does in general. because this hub is going to include most of the refinery projects, our fertilizer plants and all energy-related, plants, in that area. So it's really going to boost the economic activity.
All right, so that was Energy Minister John Peter Amewu. But do we have what it takes to really establish a petroleum hub? Let's create some conversation around this particular topic. And joining us via Skype is energy expert Kwadwo Poku. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the market, please. Hello, Mr. Poku. All right, so let's move on to other stories before we get Mr. Poku via Skype for his comments on this particular development. Now, Cabinet has also approved a policy. Now, all right, so I'm told we have Kwadwo Poku on the line. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the market, please.
Hi, good afternoon.
All right, now, so you heard the Energy Minister say that Cabinet has finally given approval for the establishment of a petroleum hub. I just want to find out, do we really have what it takes after 10 years of oil discovery? We're still being described as a nascent industry. Do we have, or do we have to rush into establishing a petroleum hub?
Well, Emmanuel, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, you are loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Well, this Takoradi petroleum hub has been something that has been on the drawing board for a while. If you heard, one of the manifesto promises of the MPP was that they want to move GNPC to Takoradi. And when they talk of a hub, what they want to do is basically establish a petroleum industry. One of the main things of having a petroleum industry is to have a major refinery and also a place where you would store your crude. As it is now, our crude is stored on FPSOs on the sea and it is shipped from there. So one of the main things the government will have to do would be to bring the petroleum product, which is the crude oil, to shore, store it on shore, so refineries can now set up around these anchors. When that happens, then you can now have a petrochemical industry coming off the back of that. So it is possible to have a hub, but there's a lot of investment and policy that the government has to do to make that happen.
Now, we have only 4 major fields producing as of now. We're expecting some more fields coming up. Now, it looks like our laws, even though, very good, still have some lapses in them. Don't you think we should wait a little to maintain or establish some of these, initiatives before we move on to set up a petroleum hub?
No, this is to do with investment, and you need to build investor confidence. It's not to do with laws or it's just policies that the government has to do. One of the main things that the government has to stop is this issue of FPSO for every field and discovery that we get. Anytime there's a discovery in Ghana, we spend over $1 billion building an FPSO. Now, that is not the right way to go. We need to do the right thing so that we can have pipelines in the ocean floor that will pipe our crude oil from the wells to a storage tank on the land. It is only when you start doing that you would have the situation like what you have in One in Nigeria, where from the One hub, a lot of industries have come off from One. If we don't start piping our crude oil from the wells to shore, it will be difficult for us to have that hub. So it's a policy that government has to put in place, not really the law.
Now, Mr. Poku, what about, you mentioned the fact that we have to establish a refinery to cater for processing of crude oil. Now, we have other refineries around the sub-region, and currently Nigeria is hoping to establish one of the biggest refineries in the world. Now, do you think that our establishment of a refinery to cater for processing of oil will be worth the while?
We can always have a refinery. You see, in Africa, you imagine that we are net importers of refined products. So maybe the Dangote refinery which you are talking of is going to be one of the biggest in West Africa or in Africa. But the Nigerian population is quite big. The Nigerian population can consume everything that Dangote wants to produce. Now you will have Ghanaians having to produce something that Ghanaians will produce. If we have excess, then we can look at neighboring countries like Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso and Mali, who can also take products of Ghana. So it's not a matter of if Nigeria is going to do something, Ghana should sit back and watch. If we have our will, I would say that instead of moving things to Takoradi, you can enhance what we have in Tema, which is the Tema oil refinery, and basically make sure that that works well before moving to Takoradi. But when somebody talks of an oil hub or a petroleum hub in Takoradi, one of the main things that come to mind is that you need to have certain infrastructure. The first one would be a storage depot. The second one would be having a refinery. Going forward, those are some of the infrastructure you need to create a hub. But Nigeria can do what they are doing, and we can do what we are doing. It doesn't have to be that way.
All right, many thanks for your time. Koyopoku is an energy expert. He's been sharing his comments, or he's been sharing his thoughts on the decision by government to create a petroleum hub in the Western region. Meanwhile, Cabinet has also approved a policy on Ghanaian content and participation in the downstream petroleum industry. Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah says the policy is intended to ensure a Ghanaian-driven and Ghanaian-owned petroleum downstream industry capable of attracting increased local value-added investments. At a press briefing on Sunday, he said it's also meant to enhance job opportunities as well as indigenous knowledge, expertise and technology in the industry for overall benefit of Ghanaians.
The new policy framework covers a number of areas, including the following. First, trading, shipping and bulk distribution of petroleum products. Second, infrastructure development in the petroleum sector, such as construction of port discharge facilities, processing and petrochemical plants. Third, supply of petroleum to strategic sectors of the economy. Fourth, general procurement of goods and services for the downstream petroleum industry. Now, though there has been significant progress in the role and participation of Ghanaians in some of the downstream activities, the government believes that this will help us occupy a lot more space that's available for Ghanaian participation in the downstream industry. It will lead, hopefully, to a retention of more profits and hard currency, which will support the Ghanaian Cedi, the development of skills and expertise for locals, and increased job creation for locals as well. The policy provides for a grace period for building local capacity, as well as onboarding the best practices from other jurisdictions where this can be practiced. Now, in the coming days, Energy Minister Peter Amewu will provide more details on the policy nuances per each activity, as I've mentioned here this afternoon.
All right, so that will be it for the marketplace. Now, before we go, this year's edition of the Joy Business Financial Services Forum kickstart at the Tank Palace tomorrow, March 19, and the focus will be on the insurance industry under the topic Recapitalizing to Grow, a Panacea for Expansion, Penetration, and Big Business Underwriting. So it's going to be an exciting opportunity for all stakeholders to join and to learn more about insurance. The time, remember, is 9:30 a.m. And on that note, to wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace, it's been great having you on board. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. If you do join me again, same time tomorrow for more interesting developments in the world of business. Have a good afternoon.